Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Chad and Corey here as your host, and we're talking today with our friend and colleague Erik Wetterling, also known as the Hedgeless Horseman. And we will put a link to the Hedgeless Horseman down below so you can follow along with Erik's work. And today we're going to be diving into a couple of earlier stage exploration plays that are swinging for the fences, trying to make big discoveries. And so they're still in that pre-assay risk element. And the first company that we were talking about off mic, Erik, is Rackla. And Rackla Metals is traded on the TSX-V on the ticker RAK, and they're exploring the Tombstone Gold Belt in the Northwest Territories, an extension of the belt that you see in Yukon. So they're looking for that reduced intrusion style gold system, similar to what you would have seen at Snowline. So again, we're still waiting on the assays here, but what has you enthused about the potential at Rackla?
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of the most fascinating grassroots targets I've ever seen. It's a reduced intrusion related gold system. That's the target. And it's outcropping for up to 400 meters high. So this is one of those cases where just a maiden drill campaign should tell us a lot. Basically, this maiden drill and channel and trenching and all that, if it's as good as it looks, we should know that before this season is over. I mean, when we get all the results from this season, because it looks humongous. It looks to be mineralized all the way from where it starts outcropping to the top of the outcrop, and it's been traced for 1.3 kilometers of strike and up to 850 meters wide where they see waning. We have one channel sample that ran 38 meters or 1.8 grams per ton, which is really, really good for such a system, obviously, in terms of grade. Fort Knox, what was it, 11 or 12 million ounces? I think that started off out at 1 gram. They're down to 0.4, I think. Snowline is at 9 million ounces with a bit over 1 gram per ton average grade. So this looks like it's a more preserved RIRGS system than Snowline and Fort Knox. That might be why we see so high bismuth values, for example. So basically, yeah, this is right now, it's probably my favorite case in terms of fascination, because every single news release is gonna, I think, mean a lot. And when I think about it, if they drill along the base for, let's say, 500 meters and the depth, I think they've done 3 drill holes now or something, and they drill or at least channel sample the ridge. They channel sample both sides of the ridge 150 meters down. I mean, if all that comes back with, economic grades, or not that everything necessarily is going to hit, because even Snowline Valley deposit, for example, you had, a portion of it, which is kind of the high grade core. But if this has legs, we should really know that just from this field season. So I think this might be, in case of success, it might be one of the quickest revaluers that you're going to see for a gold exploration play, because, I mean, most other systems that we know, I mean, low gold or low sulfidation, I mean, if you drill 5,000 meters or 4,000 meters and put in some channels or trenches, you're not going to know that much. I mean, you're not going to be close to inferring multi-million ounce system, but that you could at value, for example, after like 35 holes, you had a pretty good idea. This one is in the same category, I would say, and they have an easier time here because Snowline was drilling underneath soil samples. In this case, they actually see the entire thing, not the entire thing, but they see a lot of it outcropping. So you have a pretty good idea where you would expect to at least hit the intrusion, because they see the intrusion. So yeah, this is absolutely fascinating. It's terrifyingly exciting, as I like to say it, because there's a chance that everything looks good, real nice outcrop, really good channel sample, good grab samples, good vein density and all that. And for some reason, it doesn't translate into drilling, that, they were lucky with the sampling or something like that, and it's not homogeneous. That's always, that's for sure a risk. So I'm not betting the farm on Rackla, but I have, for a pre-discovery play, right now it's one of the largest positions.
So, Erik, if you're using Snowline and that Valley deposit as a narrative, give us a little bit more context here, because a lot of what we hear Tombstone Gold Belt wise, there are other assets to the west of Snowline. more in the Yukon. Now that the Grad property is in Northwest Territories, how big is the Grad property compared to Snowline's overall land package around Valley? And how far away is it? Any other context that we can add that really just shows the potential synergies here, because this is honestly such a new project? The company just staked this project to bring it into its portfolio.
Right. I mean, the Grad property itself, it's not a huge property right now, but it has two outcropping, or at least two mapped reduced intrusions. And if you compare it to Snowline, I mean, Snowline owns a small country, and I don't know how many. I mean, when I wrote up Snowline a few years ago, they already had like 13 targets, I think, and they're finding more. So if we're talking long-term, absolute blue sky potential, I think Snowline is probably maybe highest in the entire sector because they own so much land. So this is, as you say, more to the south, and these haven't really been looked at, and that's the interesting thing that I mean, people commented from the company. It's like probably nobody has ever put a foot at the actual Grad target, because if you find something that's shedding that amount of, I mean, it's so stained with rust, the entire mountainside. So it's like somebody would have done something there if they ever saw it, if a geologist had ever been there. And that ground just opened up as well. It was, I think it was called something like land planning or something. So nobody had been able to even stake it, at least in recent times, until very recently, and that's when Rackla actually took it down. So it's remote. It's remote. What is it? Tens of kilometers or something from there's a Chinese mine or deposit where they're having their field camp located. I don't think it's as remote as Valley for Snowline, but it's a remote one. So we're talking, high threshold for success. If you find 1 million ounces, don't even bother, unless I don't know what the grade would need to be. So that's also where the risk comes in, and that's why I remember some people didn't even look at Snowline when they made the Valley discovery, because the sentiment was that it doesn't matter what they find because it's too remote to even do build something there. Which, I mean, now given that it's one of the best deposits in the entire world, I guess that's been proven false. But that adds, of course, the risk. I mean, if this was in in Nevada or something, or there was like superb infrastructure, I don't know how low the threshold would be, but for sure, the context is that kind of like Valley and Snowline, you have to find something really, really big here to warrant, infrastructure.
Well, we'll keep following along with Rackla Metals and see what the assays show, but it's at least an interesting story with an interesting thesis in place where they could really mass up quickly if they hit. So definitely one we'll keep tabs on to see how the assays go. Another company that we've talked about quite a few times, we've had them on the show, is Inflection Resources, traded on the CSE under the ticker AUCU. Now, they're in more of the prospect generator model where they've partnered with majors, mostly AngloGold Ashanti in New South Wales at the Macquarie Arc, but they also just did a package of properties with Newmont. So they've got two majors in here involved with them to some degree, but really AngloGold Ashanti is funding the current program, and they've got multiple projects and targets. So if one doesn't work out, it doesn't kill the whole story. But walk us through the drill results you're excited about and what the near-term catalysts are for Inflection Resources, Erik.
Yeah, I mean, few stories I've needed to have this much patience with. I think I've owned the stock for 4 years, at least 3, I would think. And now when the last news release from the drilling was when they hit pretty good smoke over Trangie, which moved up to be the flagship target. Before that, it was Duck Creek, where they also hit large alteration halo, and everybody got excited by that. But they haven't really pierced, let's say, a porphyry or the inner parts of a porphyry there. At Trangie, it looks like they were the last drill update, that they were really, really close. They were basically might just be outside where the potassic and high grade core would be. So I mean, it's like, I don't know what the next update is going to show. The problem, of course, like we discussed, a few times before, is that Anglo is running the show in terms of news releases. So they need to sign off on everything and they're funding everything. So I don't know exactly how much they will have drilled because we haven't had an update for such a long time. But I'm expecting something meaty. I'm not necessarily expecting that, they definitely have gonna put in a bullseye type hole in any of the targets. But I think at least they have a shot of doing that, because if you look at some other discoveries like Cadia Ridgeway, I mean, when they hit kind of smoke that Inflection hit at Trangie at the last update, that was only around 150 meters from finding the core Cadia deposit, which obviously would be a stellar prize to find. I mean, we don't know if it's there. We don't know how long it's gonna take to find if it is there. But at least I would think we're gonna have a lot more information, and hopefully we will also learn that they're maybe onto something at maybe Duck Creek or some of the other targets, and then who knows, maybe these New South Wales projects they're getting from Newmont, maybe they will be wendered in as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what to expect, except that given how long it's been since the last drill update, and I don't think they have been lazy, but I think they have just kept drilling, but drilling efficiently. I mean, they have a budget for every project. So of course, if you want to have the, let's say, best risk reward, best bang for the buck, if you're a small company, you don't want to burn that budget just drilling willy-nilly. So I think they're doing a crap ton of due diligence for everything they do, basically, because insiders have huge skin in the game, and you don't want to, of course, just blow the budget on any one project. Instead, give yourself the best chance of success, because that's the only way anybody really is going to make any money out of such a low liquidity stock like Inflection. There's got to be a liquidity event. So in that case, I mean, stretch the budget all you need to increase the chance of final success.
Hey, this company is set up well, right? They have a major partner moving forward, 4 assets, and Duck Creek, they even designated phase 2 early on and then brought in these 3 other projects. That's always the underlying catalyst here, but as we've seen over the last more than a year now, is news is slow. But with these 12 new projects in New South Wales from Newmont, kind of fits this bill where these were already in another major. Now that major is putting them in this junior to explore, at least work up targets. You expecting anything on these new projects in terms of news flow, in terms of catalysts that could just add on to, again, unfortunately, that kind of slow drill result process that they have on these 4 other projects, but now they have this whole other portfolio that they're free to do with whatever they want.
Right. I mean, I get the sense that these IOCG targets, which are not in New South Wales, that they are more junior friendly in the sense that they produce more bullseye kind of targeting when you do geophysics. So it's not as much maybe geochemistry as you would see in undercover porphyry targets. So I think they would have an easier time going about it themselves, because maybe you do some geophysics and a few holes per target might be enough to really test them, because they produce whatever geophysics anomaly, and okay, if what is there, if that's an IOCG, we should be hitting it if we drill it. But there's 12 projects, of course, and it's still going to be, I mean, relatively expensive, or anything is expensive for a 30 million market cap junior. So I mean, I would think that would also be large enough for a major, because it was in fact Newcrest that staked that ground, and then Newcrest became Newmont. So I'm open to, I mean, having some 100% owned projects to drill test, and with that comes dilution, since they wouldn't be fully carried like they are at New South Wales. Or who knows, I mean, getting another major to basically bankroll yourself there, then I mean, yeah, so in that case, I mean, there might not be any dilution for a long time. And even though every major and every, project package might be kind of slow, but at least if you have 2 working, maybe you can, speed it up by twice the amount of news releases, let's say, so it doesn't go 3 months before our news release, but 1.5 months instead. But I have no doubt they're going to make the best decision possible. The technical team is absolutely superb. Management has huge skin in the game, so whatever they come up with, I got to believe it's going to be the best choice.
Yeah, it's a solid technical team, and whether they decide to go it solo and take on the dilution for the prize, or whether they bring in another major, or whether AngloGold wants to take on even more, we'll wait and see how they work it out. But it'll be interesting to follow, and hopefully we get some news soon from Inflection. But just want to keep that on investors' radar for another potential exploration discovery. And again, these are big targets, swing for the fence targets that they're going after. One other company that's in the same bucket, Erik, that we were talking about is Westward Gold, traded on the CSE under the ticker WG. Now they're looking for more a Carlin-type gold system in Nevada at their Toyabe Hills project. They've been hitting at the Campfire target area as far as where their drilling is, and we're waiting on assays here. Talk to us about gold in Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, this is also, as you said, a swing for the fences type of target for sure. I mean, everything I watched their technical presentation, they have a bunch of Carlin experts, I think some ex-Barrick people and stuff involved, so they would know what to look for because they have explored for these in the major companies. And there's been quite some insider buying not too long ago as well. So I mean, they have really smart people who should know what they're doing. Insiders are have been increasing skin in the game, so I guess they believe they eat their own cooking, so to speak. But very much a high grade target. I mean, everything is theoretical until it is proven. I like the idea of, hey, this is a relatively near surface new Carlin gold type giant, maybe one of the few that are left, because as we know, most of the exploration for these Carlin gold deposits nowadays, they're drilling targets 800 meter down, for example, which is super expensive. Those holes can cost, I don't know how much they can cost, but I mean, that's why, for example, Ridgeline farmed it out to Barrick and even some of their other Nevada CRD plays, because it is expensive for juniors, especially given the crappy markets we've seen. So they're drilling their Campfire project as we speak. That's their highest priority target. They have some other targets as well, but it's kind of like Rackla, where the story right now is based on their flagship project. So that's gonna, I mean, in the short term, they're gonna live or die by basically, even if they have other targets and which might prove successful later, but it would be a, pretty much a complete reset of both stories as far as I'm concerned. So very much this is like the, very much the high risk, high reward portion. And we talked about this before. I mean, a lot of the time it's probably better risk reward to actually wait for a discovery hole and then buy in. Sure, you're going to pay up. I mean, depending on how tight the stock is, how good the hole is, etc., you might pay up 100% or something, but you take lower risk for a bit lower upside potential. But I like these. I'm a sucker sometimes for these really exciting stories, but that doesn't mean, again, I'm not betting the farm on these. And who knows? I mean, I bet an amount of money that I'm okay to lose. If I lose 50% of what I put in, so be it. If they hit any of these, I mean, I think from their market caps and the sizes of the prices, I think they all have 10, 20x potential. So you only need, let's say, 1 in 5 really to work out if you can hold the winner long enough, because that's expected to pay off for the many that fail. And I have no idea which one of these are going to fail. I just know that, okay, you have some of the sector's best experts in all of these 3, and they're drilling, let's say, call them world-class targets. And what the chance of success is for either one, no idea. And of course, some are riskier than others, because Inflection is the only one that won't really, I mean, they have so many targets in queue that you can't really kill that story anytime soon. Whereas Rackla and Westward, for sure, they would be killed short term if they come up with nothing. Even though they have a shot of making discoveries down the line, other projects or other targets within their project packages. I just want to put it out there. It's like I'm really excited about these stories, but it's not like I'm betting the farm on them. And who knows, maybe my positions I have now, if depending what the results are, I might not take profits in case of true drill discovery success. I might add. I mean, I can't tell that now, of course, because I don't know what the results are going to be. But there's always also the option, just let's say, follow the story. If you don't like this highest risk portion of going into assays, for example, just have them on your watch list. If they make any of them make a world-class discovery, they're not going to revalue to a world-class discovery value in a day. That I can tell you.
Erik, we always talk about value. You always bring up the value proposition here, and that's what I want to more or less, I guess, wrap this up on, is that Inflection, you just laid out a case there that it seems slightly less risky, but they're a $28 million market cap. Westward, yes, that one's still risky, pre-discovery, $25 million market cap. Rackla's already at a $67 million market cap, and Rackla and Westward, their stocks have done very well just in the last couple months. Inflection, mostly sideways for the last 3 to 4 months. How do you balance out that valuation disconnect there where Rackla right now, market-wise, is being valued at about 2.5 times Inflection and Westward?
Yeah, I mean, I think this stuff is fascinating, and it just goes to show that no case is equal. I mean, all are pre-drill discovery plays, but they have very different risk profiles in a sense. I mean, Westward, they know they have their gold. There's gold at surface. There's oxide kaolin gold at surface, so we know there's a gold system there. We don't know if there's going to be a good feeder zone like that produces the other world-class type targets, and so far it's geophysics and geochemistry. Rackla is the most, I would guess, unique one, because you're potentially looking at the ore body already, and what we know about it, everything looks great. What we know about it, the amount of alteration, the sheer extension of the alteration, the channel sample, that you're seeing veins from bottom to top and all that. So in a sense, I would say that maybe Rackla is the least risky of them, but it also has absolutely, I think, one of the highest upside potentials. And I think that combination is why I'm okay, paying whatever it is, 68 million market cap, for example. Whereas Inflection is more of the most, I guess, black box kind of thing, because it's kind of, I mean, they don't have that kind of, we have one flagship target that's just right there in geophysics and it's so obvious, and if we just test it, we're going to get results quickly. No, you got to typically probe around a lot more, like they showed when they discovered Cadia Ridgeway. I mean, they just basically poked holes around it and eventually they found it. So I think that's probably the hardest in terms of getting that bullseye hole, but they have so many shots, they have so many kicks at the can, and they have so many cans to kick. So there you get it back in terms of, okay, maybe per target, maybe the lowest chance of success, but you get so many targets that the chance of final, or the risk of final failure, let's say, you got to kill so many targets before that happens. So in a sense, I guess maybe Inflection is the least risky, even though they have the highest risk targets, so to speak. So I think they're all very different, and I think that all three, thankfully, I mean, given how the targets they're looking for, how they tend to appear, I think that once you do a discovery hole, it's going to be relatively quick to prove up if they are really big or not. And for Rackla, that would be the easiest, because you literally see what the target is.
Well, with all three companies, with Rackla Metals, Inflection Resources, and Westward Gold, we'll definitely be following along with keen interest to see what results come back in next, and we'll circle back up with you when some results are released and get you to weigh in on it, and circle up with the companies as well. And for those listening in, if you want to follow along with Erik's work and some of the other companies on his radar that are already have made a discovery, post-discovery stories, and all the other companies that he weighs in on or covers the news, definitely check out the link down below to the Hedgeless Horseman website. And Erik also puts out some good videos over at his YouTube channel. Erik, like always, great to have you on the show on the KE Report, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, guys. And as always, I'm biased. I own shares of all companies. Rackla and Inflection are banner sponsors, twice biased there. And these are high risk, high reward stories. So again, it's like these are not slam dunks multi-baggers. They have potential to be, so I wouldn't bet the farm.